Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Before we dive into today's inspiring conversation, I wanted to share some exciting updates and express my gratitude to this incredible community. First off, a massive thank you to all my amazing Patreon supporters. Your contributions are truly making a difference by helping cover the costs of producing this podcast. Because of your support, not only is this show accessible to you, but it's also available for other stroke survivors who may not be in a position to contribute financially. Your generosity ensures that this resource continues to reach those who need it the most. Another simple but powerful way to support the podcast is by listening to the ads without skipping them. It may not seem like much, but just letting the ads play helps keep this podcast going, allowing me to bring you valuable content week after week. Speaking of growth, we're now at 49 five-star reviews on Spotify, and the YouTube channel is on track to surpass 5,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. More and more stroke survivors and caregivers are finding this content, leaving comments, and engaging in meaningful conversations. I couldn't be more grateful for this growing community. A huge thank you goes out to those who have read and reviewed my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. Every review and message inspires me to keep sharing these conversations. If you haven't picked up your copy yet, you can find it on Amazon or at recoveryafterstroke.com/book. And if you're looking for additional guidance, remember about the narrated video lessons at recoveryafterstroke.com/learn. These lessons, created by a stroke survivor for stroke survivors, are designed to help you take actionable steps toward reclaiming your life after stroke. Now, let's talk about today's episode. I'm thrilled to be joined by Adam Jackson, an Australian Army veteran and stroke survivor whose story is nothing short of incredible. Adam experienced two strokes 10 years apart, the first of which went undiagnosed while he was deployed in Afghanistan. When his second stroke hit in 2020, he faced complete paralysis on his right side, but rather than let it define him, Adam took on his biggest challenge yet, rebuilding his life through adaptive sports. Adam's journey is one of perseverance, mindset shifts, and finding purpose through movement and competition. In this episode, we'll explore how he transitioned from recovery to competing in the Invictus Games, what adaptive sports have meant for his rehabilitation, and how he continues to push his limits. Let's get started. Adam Jackson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Bill.
Tell me a little bit about what happened to you, man.
Okay, so in 2020, I had a massive. So I woke up at about 5 a.m. in the morning. Obviously my wife was asleep. I said, "Do you want to go to the gym or can I go?" And she's like, "You go." Like, okay, cool. Went downstairs, started doing some laundry, and then I just sort of was on the ground, like, what am I doing here? I like looked up the washing machine, go like, must have had a fall or something. That I just didn't need to grab the washing machine, pull myself up, go to the couch, couldn't do it. Was missing my right arm. I was like, "Where's my right arm?" Just like looking around, couldn't see it. Didn't want to wake my wife up again. So I started thinking about calling out to the girl, because I've got two daughters. They're both 11 and 13 now. But then my wife heard me mumble something, so she came down, saw me, said, "You're having a stroke." I mumbled something again. She called the ambulance. Took a while to get there. Then I got transferred to hospital on the Sunshine Coast. They did some scans and stuff, and then they sent me to Brisbane to the Royal Brisbane Hospital. It is. And that's where I spent my first week after my stroke. So I had a left side MCA, and yeah, I was completely paralyzed in my right hand side.
What's an MCA?
Good question. A something cerebral. Oh, yeah.
Let me check
I
it up.
just know it.
Since I asked you, left side MCA.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cerebral, left middle cerebral artery is the artery that was impacted, perhaps,
yes, that's it. Yep.
and you had an ischemic stroke.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. All right. Left middle cerebral artery. I've got no idea where that's located. It's probably somewhere in the brain, right? That's all right.
Yep.
Um,
It's in
so that was
one
in
of the
20,
May 2020. Yeah.
that was in 2020, but you had a stroke in 2010.
Yes. Um, they didn't know it was a stroke back then. So I'm a veteran of the Australian Army. So I was in Afghanistan at the time in 2010. Again, um, really weird. So I woke up because we're in a room with like four people. Woke up, was getting changed to go call my wife, Kate. Uh, Stood up, my right side leg felt funny. You know how you get pins and needles when you sit on your leg too long, or that sort of thing. It felt like that. I was like, that's weird. And then I just lost complete feeling in my left right leg. I was like, oh, that's not good. And then my left leg started going, and I was like, because we were in bunk beds, and there wasn't anyone on the top bunk, but I was holding onto the bunk. And then my left leg did the same thing, and then I collapsed on the floor. And I remember feeling like my legs underneath me twitching, and I had to like grab them and throw them out. And I didn't have pants on at that stage, so I was sitting there going, "I'm going to have to call someone to come and put my pants off and take me to the hospital." Um, and but the feeling came back. I was like, "Oh, that was weird." Got dressed, went downstairs, spoke to my wife on the phone, started to get ahead from there. Said, I'm going to get back to my room, and just got worse from there. So started throwing up. Um, Went back to bed, and then I couldn't get out of bed, so I had to call someone to help, and they helped me into the car, took me to the Royal 3 Hospital at Kandahar Airfield. Um, they did some like heaps of scans and stuff, and I was pretty much out for that day. They couldn't find out what was wrong, so they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They thought it was meningitis, or some thought sort of meningitis. Um, but then they just, I went back, spent I think not one night in the hospital, and then went back to my room where I spent like 5 days just recovering slowly. Again, it's that fatigue, and I know a lot of stroke survivors talk about that fatigue, but that first stroke was, like that for like weeks and weeks, where I just fatigued, couldn't do my normal stuff, but I was fine other than that. Um, didn't investigate it the first stroke, so it was a tiny stroke. So when the big stroke happened in 2020, um, the doctors was like, has anything happened like this before? And we talked about that. And then they got the scans back, and they could see the old infarct where the old injury was. And then this injury was like basically around that. Um, so, yeah.
So what do they reckon the cause is? Two ischemic strokes 10 years apart. Is there an underlying cause?
Yes, I had a PFO, and you're going to ask me what that stands for, but
Patent foramen ovale.
that's it.
It's a hole in the
Um,
heart.
yes. So I had one of those, and that's from scats, that's what they say caused it. Probably, as you know, one in I think three people have one, or
Mm.
pretty common. But obviously, a lot of people, it doesn't cause strokes in everyone. But after two, they're like, okay, we got to close that hole up.
Let's take a quick pause here before we dive back into Adam's inspiring story and his journey through adaptive sports, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to my Patreon supporters. Your contributions keep this podcast going, ensuring that it remains accessible, not just for you, but for other stroke survivors who may not be in a position to provide financial support. If you'd like to be a part of this and help sustain the podcast, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/recovery after stroke. Okay. So the first time they did work out that perhaps it was the PFO, or they
No,
missed that.
they didn't investigate it. So my first stroke, they didn't actually know it was a stroke until my second massive stroke. Yeah,
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
how do you recover from a stroke when you have no idea you had a stroke 10 years earlier?
It's lucky, I suppose, that it wasn't a big stroke. I mean, the doctor said because they did the scans so early on that sometimes it doesn't show up until like later on the injury.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so that's why they didn't pick it up. And I mean, I was in Afghanistan at the time, so the as good as the medical, the doctors and stuff over there are fantastic. I mean, it's not a proper hospital
Yeah.
by any means. So, but they still had scanners and stuff, and like obviously what my injury was, or my stroke, wasn't anything compared to the other soldiers and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
What they suffer. So yeah, just different injuries that. Yeah,
So this one in 2020, we're
yep,
talking about almost lockdown. Were you in lockdown? What was the situation there with the medical situation? Because
yeah,
that's when March
yep.
2020 was when I know Melbourne
COVID.
locked down like nothing else. You're in Brisbane, so what was that like?
Yes. Took a couple of weeks. It was okay when I was in Brisbane, but when I went back to Sunny Coast, I think it was like 1 or 2 weeks later. Yeah, probably a week later that they started locking down the hospital. So my kids couldn't come up to the ward because I went into the stroke ward for I think 1 or 2 days, and then I got transferred to the rehabilitation ward, and they locked it down. So it was only you know um, like my wife that could come and visit me.
Mm,
So they limited numbers of people that could come up and see me, which sucked when you're trying to recover from such a massive stroke, and having that support at the start was absolutely important for recovery. Because the kids could come watch me do my physio, try to get the movement back in my right side, and then to just cut that out was devastating.
mm. So right now, what are your
Yep.
deficits?
I've still got deficits in my leg. My right hand is non-functional, and then I've still got deficits on my right arm as well. So like my ankle joint, my hip, knee, I sort of explain it that like my bigger muscles turned on pretty quickly because I was fit before my stroke. Um, they could come back pretty quickly and you could switch them on. But the little muscles, in the hand, there's like so many intricate muscles that you need to work and to actually make that connection. It's hard.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Does that mean you're able to walk?
yep, I can walk and I can run. Yeah, yeah. It took
And
me 2 months from not being able to walk to being sort of running again, and that's when they kicked me out of the hospital because they're like, you can run, you don't need to be in rehab ward. I was like, okay.
yeah, well, you don't need to be in rehab to learn how to walk again
Yeah.
or run, but you probably need to be in rehab to use your arm.
Yeah. So I pretty much before I left hospital, I'd organised OT, so Effie Simpson, which she, um, she's amazing, and she I still see her. So 4 years later, I still do physio, I still do OT. I still do uh, rehab per se, or to maintain that muscle mass and maintain that movement. I'm still doing stuff. It just never ends, and if you stop, it's obviously you go backwards. So
Mm, mm. Oh, who did you mention? I missed that.
Effie Simpson,
Ah, amazing. Okay. So you see Effie, that's why we're connected. That makes sense now.
yes,
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So with your deficits,
yeah,
are there any cognitive deficits, any other challenges that you deal with on a daily basis that are not related to the physical part?
yeah. So I still have um, word finding difficulties, spelling difficulties. Um, you just my mind will just go blank and you're like, how do you spell there? Or just common words. They just
Which
um,
there, though, because I get stuck on there all the time. And
I drive
where?
my
Well, I get
yeah.
stuck on where as well. Where
Yeah.
are they? All the wheres. I don't know which one to use. Never.
Yeah. I teach my girls as for the there where you're going something like you're going there. I say, here, there, everywhere, then you know how to spell. That sometimes it works, but they still
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah. ERE and their
Yeah,
it's their ball,
yeah,
THEIR,
yeah,
and they are they
yeah.
THEY. Okay. I know all of that, but in a sentence sometimes
Oh yeah,
it just doesn't flow. Like
align.
you can't just
Yeah,
slot it in the right one.
yeah,
And especially with the wheres,
yeah,
where and
yeah,
where. Um, and that's been for me a challenge like since almost day one. And it's
yeah,
such a it's not a real struggle, but it's such a really weird thing to be aware of and notice and not be able
yeah,
to just get it right.
yeah,
And I always have to get a pen out and write them all down and see them all and then go
yeah.
again. And if I'm
That's
not
it.
using a computer, which will auto correct,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just fascinating that it keeps happening.
yeah.
Um, so your uh what kind of work were you doing in 2020? Were you still in the armed forces?
So I was actually a reservist at that time. So I did 12 years full time and then 3 years part time, or reserve time. So I was actually my full time job was I was a fly in fly out electronics technician, working for BAE at the time. And again, luckily, I wasn't at work because I probably would have died. So because you gain contact because you're on 12-hour shifts. If it's your 12-hour off, you don't really see anyone except breakfast, dinner, or lunch, and it's a small camp, so there's only like 20 people on site. So again, you've got to count your blessings when this happens when you have a medical professional for a wife. So
Yeah, that helps a lot.
yeah, yes,
How many years were you in the army?
12. Oh, it's 15 in total.
How old were you when you joined?
25. I joined later.
Yeah, that's all right. 25. So you were in there for 12 years.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the army, how many places did you deploy to? Had you been to?
I've been to Afghanistan twice, um, which again, I actually really enjoyed it. Being in the army, I was an avionics technician, so I used to work on the Chinook helicopters. Um, and to be there, this is Kandahar airfield is massive. Like 30,000 people on site. There's like six messes. There's shops you can go shop at. There's the PXs. Um, it's just it's like a little mini city. And then for like an aviation person, see all the allied helicopters, aircraft, jets. It was awesome. Um, good experience, and um, people, at home don't like the war. Well, didn't at the time, and they
It wasn't
complain,
a
but
popular war. Yep.
no, not at all. But I explained it to someone one time and said, if you were an engineer, would you like to work on models for the rest of your life? And they're like, no. I said, so why do you want like a defense force member to just stay at home and do exercises as opposed to going overseas and helping people, and doing their job for real? Because it's not like the Australian Defence Force is not about the wars. It's about helping people. Doing the humanitarian aid. When there's salam, what do they call that? Tsunamis. That's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Fires, floods, cyclones. That's what we're there for, and that's what we want to do. We wanted to get to deployed for those things, to help people. It's not about so I suppose because we're because I was in the defence force, you have a different perspective of what we actually do.
Yeah.
Uh,
I suppose the purpose of joining the Defence Force is to deploy. That's the
yes,
whole point.
exactly. Yep.
Being a reservist is maybe a different thing.
Yes.
Perhaps trains you to a certain extent, but the whole purpose is
Yeah.
to be a reservist. It's not to be
Exactly. Yep.
deployed, right?
Yep.
So you're deployed, and your role meant that you didn't specifically see any the theater of war on the front line or anything like that. You didn't see that part of it.
Not really. Like we still got it. So the Taliban used to send with like 105 mil rockets. So they had like a timer. So they set it, build it like a um, uh, dirt mound, and then just sort of roughly aim it, and then they set a timer, like an egg timer or something, so it set off, so they wouldn't be anywhere near where that rocket came from. You get rockets daily, landing on base. Um, one hit one of the we had three like concrete accommodation blocks. One of the rockets hit the one next to us, completely destroyed the room, but he was out having a smoke at the time. So um, yeah, it's just and you hear a lot of stories about people that weren't in the room when at the time and they got hit or um, you know
I hear you. I hear you. The reason I was asking about your career
yeah,
and where you work was kind of to try and understand like what you're made of and how you applied your training and the things that you went through, the tough times, being
yeah,
deployed, getting ready to deploy, all that kind of stuff. How do you apply that to your stroke recovery? Is there a transfer of skills into stroke recovery? Do you use what you've learned in the army to get you through those hard times of stroke?
yes. So I was always a positive person before I joined the army, and I think mostly that positivity um, helped me not recover but get through those hard times. But in the defence force, they teach you to just to keep going. Like you can't stop, um, because there's someone depending on you. Especially with the helicopters. If we don't fix our helicopter, that could mean that someone needs like a medical evacuation, can't get back, or the troops on the front line can't get picked up when they need to. So it's very important to just do your job, do it well. Doesn't matter what you're going through. You got to think about the other people as well that are depending on you to do your job. And I think that sort of transfers into my recovery, is that you just, instead of other people depending on, or people that I don't know depending on me, it's my family that, I have to, that depend on me, and I depend on them to, get better, to live, so that I'm there for my family and there for me. So um, instead of, that's my inspiration, suppose you could say, is to get better with my family. They were there from the start, and they're still here now. So, supporting me in whatever I want to do in my recovery. Because, as you know, recovery never stops. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You were a reservist
Mhm.
in 2020, but were you also working? Did you have a job? Were you full time employed?
Yeah. So I was working the fly and fly out with as an electronics technician.
Ah, yes. Fly in, fly out. So, what kind of travel arrangements did that entail? So, how long would you fly
Yeah.
out for?
I was away for 15 days, and then I was back for 13. And two of those 15 were travel days. So it's basically 13 days off, 13 days at home, and then two travel days in between. So it's a
Mhm.
pretty good roster. I mean, it's awesome to have. Yeah.
Pretty good roster.
Yeah.
When you're flying out, how far are you flying out? Where are you going?
Went from Brisbane to Longreach, and then from Longreach it was a 2 hour drive to the radar site. So
Uh-huh. And since then, have you been able to get back to some kind of work at all?
um, not really, no. So I'm retired now, and I think my job well transferred to my sport now. So and my is not my passion, but because my rehab, I wanted to get better. It sort of blended into the sport path. So at the start of the year, I was selected to do by Invictus Australia to go over to America and do the Warrior Games in June. Which is an awesome experience because that's for the wounded, sick, and injured. So I'll just say, and could be current serving or former serving members. And then again, I got selected to go to Invictus in Canada, in Vancouver, in February next year. So again, I'm training for that. But before that, it was just training to get better. So to have a goal now is amazing. Because I think you need those goals yourself, and it doesn't matter how big that goal is, but have that goal to aim towards, because otherwise, people lose interest in what they're doing in their rehab. So,
Mm.
yeah.
What sport are you participating in?
At Invictus, I'm doing indoor rowing, swimming, sitting volleyball, and Nordic skiing.
Is that enough or what?
Oh, well, at Warrior, I had 5 sports. Um, yeah.
Are you training and participating in those sports all day, every week?
Indoor rowing, yes. Swimming, I like train in. I'm actually in Melbourne at the moment, so I just yesterday did the High Rocks race. They so I, for anyone to know what High Rocks is, it's like a fitness race. Um, it's awesome, and um, someone suggested it to me last year to my wife because she's really fit as well. Um, and they suggested it to her, and I looked at it and went, "Nah, that's like crazy." But I looked into it because a lot of sports have the adaptive categories. So I looked into it because their motto is it's a race for everybody. Um, so I was like, okay. And I sent them a message that said, "Do you do adaptive?" And they went, "We do. It's in a draft edition, but we do have divisions for adaptive athletes." So my wife and I did the Brisbane one in August, um, which was amazing. But again, it didn't really count for anything. So I've been trying to push to get it included. And this is the first. Melbourne yesterday had their first official adaptive divisions in the High Rocks race in the men's and women. So the women are running racing today. Um, it's good to have that there again,
So
that goal.
what does high rocks involve though? It sounds like there's
Sounds
some rock.
weird, is that?
Yeah, it sounds a
No.
bit strange.
Yes. So basically, there's 8 1 kilometer runs, and
Uh-huh.
then in between you have different stations. So 1 kilometer run, 1,000 meter skier, 1 kilometer run. And you just keep going through the stations. So there's sled push, sled pull, indoor rowing, lunges, kettlebell farmers carries, burpees, broad jumps. So there's heaps of activities, and
Uh-huh.
the beauty of it is as they say, everyone can do it, or everybody can do it, and you can train. It's not like a Spartan or a tough mudder where you have to actually go and get muddy and dirty, and you hurt yourself, or you can't really train for that. Whereas high rocks, you know what the standards are, you know what you need to do, and most gyms you can do it at, and the staff have been absolutely amazing. I can't speak highly enough of Matt Locke, which is the Australian head. He's been super supportive of the adaptive divisions to try and get it through, because now we have an opportunity to go to the World Championships as adaptive athletes, which is it's insane, but it's good to have that that goal of and again, it's trying to get other people into the sport. That people that go, I can't do that, like I did 12 months ago, to get them into the sport and go, you know what, this is actually fun, and have that again, that goal to train towards. It's good.
You're training for competitions now. When
Yes.
you were fit and well before the stroke,
Yep.
were you doing that level of training? Were you trying to accomplish those types of goals?
Um, I was training probably not quite as hard as I am now, because I had a job, a full-time job, and then the kids. But like when I was home, I've always been fit. I've always gone to the gym. I've always played. I was playing netball before him, um, at a high level. But again, life just you know, pops in the way and just
Hmm.
takes over. So I've always loved sport, and I've always loved being competitive.
Hmm.
Uh, and this has just helped, I suppose you could say.
You're in the adaptive divisions or
Yep.
similar. You would have met a lot of people in similar situation to you because of maybe a stroke or a different condition. What's it
Yep.
like meeting other people that are going through something similar or can relate to you?
Um, so I'll just refer back to my Invictus team, for example. You got people in wheelchairs, you got people, with mental health, um, problems, uh, and there's a lot of stories out there that you look and go, there's cancer, people with cancer, and terminal illnesses, and you're in awe of them as much as they're in awe of you, for their strength and their resilience to keep pushing through, even though they know that they have a finite amount of time left on this earth, especially for the terminal cancer patients. But they're still. One of my teammates, Doug Griffiths, he just did the Kona marathon in Hawaii. Like, that's amazing, to do that. Yeah, it's very inspirational, and you get all that, you get more energy from them being in that group of people. There's special people, and to be included into that group is, it's um, yeah, very you know, I'm very grateful for that and for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It sounds like that helps you with the tough days. I
yeah,
imagine there's
definitely.
a lot of hard days in not only the training aspect of it, but also dealing with what stroke has caused and created.
Yes.
Um, is it something that you're managing well, that you're handling? How are you mm, how are you dealing with all those types of things?
Yep. Mostly I handle it well. I still have my good days, my bad days. Um, there's a lot of that because I suppose being a um, adapted athlete now, like again, you look at the other people and go, am I worthy? I suppose you could say. Um, and but then you just go, well, that's why you got to give it your all. Like yesterday in my race, like I had like carpet burn on my knee, my elbow, like I was wrecked. But you just don't give up because it teaches your kids those values of you might be hurt, but you're not broken. Um, yeah, I think one of the Doug Griffiths mottos is beaten but never broken. So that's it's a good motto to have.
Yeah. So part of the thing that inspires you to keep going is the kids, to be a good example for the kids.
Yeah, and from to just push through that pain and that, or not, it might not be pain, it might be the emotional barrier holding you back from trying something or to do something, and just you're only here for a short amount of time, and life always throws you curveballs, but you've got to just get through it.
Is the pain that you experience now after stroke different from, say, the pain before stroke when you were going to the gym, pumping iron, running, doing whatever? I know that kind of pain as well. It's a like a I hate this pain, but at the end, it's really good pain. Like it's okay.
Yeah,
Going to the gym now for me, I've actually stopped going to the gym probably the last 4 months
yeah,
because every time I was going, I was causing not an injury, but I was causing something to occur where my muscles weren't recovering. I was just aggravating things
yeah,
and making it tighter and tenser, more tone, more painful, more annoying. And the fun of going to the gym like went away because
yes,
I was never coming, I was never recovering and going back
yes,
recovered. What's it like for you to experience this version of your body, going to the
yeah.
gym, training, and all that kind of stuff compared to the previous version?
It's a lot harder, obviously. Again, as you said, like your muscles, especially on your affected side, your muscles tighten and the tone just kicks in. And there's no way of actually stopping that, at that time. Like you can stretch, but it doesn't, you can't stretch properly. So, that pain is there all the time. I find acupuncture works wonders to release that, tension and that
Mm,
tone. And I suppose that again has helped me, um, keeping up with my allied health professionals and those appointments to actually, um, and Effie's the same, dry needling my right arm to, release some of that tension. Um, but again, it's either don't do anything, and then all those gains sort of slip away because if I don't move my right arm or use my right arm,
mm.
it just wastes away. So I have to go to the gym to give it something like to move it and to do those sorts of things. Um, and my leg, I suppose, is it's the same. If I don't do it, sort of yes, yeah, I need to do it.
You need to do it regardless. You got to
Yeah,
push through
yeah,
the
yeah,
pain, even
exactly.
though it's harder than before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's maybe what I want to hear. What I wanted to hear you say, so that like I know what
Yeah,
I've got to do, and maybe other people that are listening understand as well that it's harder, but it's probably more important than it's ever been.
Exactly. And I think um, with the pain, like obviously I'm probably an extreme version of, spending, 2 or 3 hours at the gym, you know, 5 or 6 days a week. You don't need to do that to get, to keep that. I'm doing that for my fitness and for my athletic, endeavors. Whereas most people, you don't need to do that. You just need to move that arm, or um, you just don't need to go to those extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just got to get moving. You got to get the blood
exactly.
flowing. You got to get the muscle
Yep.
activated.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no way I'm doing 3 hours of gym a day, mate. No chance.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much spare time I have. I was very happy to go in, and this is the good thing about what you just said. It's true. I was very happy
Yeah.
to go in when my body was responding the way that I wanted it to, maybe for
Hmm.
30 minutes, 45 minutes every second
Yep.
day.
Yep.
And that was it, because what that meant that I got to see people and meet people who I haven't seen for 2 or 3 days. We get to talk a little bit about, what you get up to kind of stuff, a little bit of
Yeah.
trash, a little
Yeah.
bit of sport
Yeah.
update about your team, and then push some weights around, get the blood pumping, get the endorphins running, get all of the neurotransmitters happening,
Yep.
and then feel a little bit exhausted, and then go back and recover. And
Yep.
it was a good part of a routine that created
Yes.
um, only good things.
Yes. Yep.
And even when I was going and I wasn't recovering well, and I had some problems with my muscles and that, it was still it, even then it was still good to go. The community aspect of it and all that
Yes.
stuff
Exactly.
was still worth it. But at some point, it gets to the stage of, okay, if I'm going to, and this is the other real important point I want to make, if you're going to be injuring yourself going to the gym, you just need to find a way to go without injuring yourself and without making
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
deficits impossible.
Yes.
Um, and then just find a way. I decreased my weight, so the guy who set up um, my sessions, my Monday and my Wednesday sessions, what I was going to do,
Yeah.
my program, um, initially had me kind of lifting more and more weights and getting
Yeah.
heavier and heavier. And I'm like, I don't need to lift heavier weights. I just need to lift weights, just
Yeah.
so that I can keep the bone strength, so I can keep the
Yes. Yeah.
muscles growing, the blood flowing, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so I can create new neurons. It's a very different reason why I was going to the gym now,
Exactly.
as
Yeah.
opposed to when I had previously been to the gym.
Yeah.
So I still encourage people to go, and even though it might be hard and difficult, just find yourself doing the exercises that are easy for you to do, that you can resist some decent amount of weight,
Yeah.
and the ones that are a little harder, just decrease the weight and get somebody to support you or assist you with those
Yes.
particular sets or reps.
Yeah.
Uh, it's so important. But you've taken it to the next level. I mean, why didn't you just go to the gym? Why didn't you just go and train and run and not worry about competing?
Well, I did for the first 4 years, pretty much.
Ah,
And I remember, like, the people that are worried about going to the gym, um, at the start, I did not want to go to the gym, um, because of my deficits. You're always worried about people looking at you funny or
uh-huh.
wondering what's wrong with you. And you have those conversations. And a lot of people, I was the same. You don't want to have those conversations with complete strangers going, I had a stroke. This arm doesn't work. I'm trying to, you don't, you want to be left alone. And I suppose that's the main reason why for those 4 years, I just was doing it for myself and my family to get better. And it was my wife who suggested applying for Invictus. And I suppose that was the catalyst to, push me to compete, to, go harder than I have before, to try and, see what I can do, see what this body can do. At 44 now, you know, um, trying to represent Australia in a sport at the Paralympics or, in the World Cups or whatever it is, but trying to achieve something that I would never have thought I could achieve. Um, I might not get there, but that's fine because, I have that goal. Um, and you just got to keep trying. Yeah,
You still achieve great things if you don't get there, so to speak.
exactly. Yep.
Um, Aim for the stars, you know,
Yep.
no problem. You'll get somewhere pretty high up, man. It'll be fantastic. So with your leg, do you use an AFO?
No.
Okay, so no AFO. Now you still look pretty fit, right? You look pretty fit. Your
Yeah.
arm doesn't respond or isn't working at the moment. Is that right?
No, it works. It's just my hand.
Ah, it's just your hand.
I, yeah.
It's just a
So
little bit.
probably from my knee, elbow down, it's sort of weaker. Um, but
And you
then my elbow up, yeah.
still got some decent muscle tone there. How do you use your hand? How do you support it to go through the exercise regime?
I have an active hand. Um, do you know what that is?
No.
My wife will grab it for you.
Aha.
So
Good
it
assistance.
basically helps me hold on to stuff. It's an absolute, well, it's a game changer. So that's, it looks weird at the moment, but basically it goes over your hand and then it's all Velcro. You just strap it on your wrist and then that part goes around to hold on to a bar or whatever it is.
Ah,
So you don't really need your grip strength to go to the gym. Um,
you,
it does it for you.
the strap tightens your fingers around the bar, and then
Yep,
as you pull it down and Velcro it, it just holds
yep,
your hand in the right position and supports it.
yep,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, it's good. It's and like I said, it's an invaluable because if I didn't have that, um, this wouldn't be possible because it just depend on my grip strength. Then, um, as a lot of stroke survivors, don't concentrate on that hand; it just releases. It's stupid. Rehab where you got to hold on to something and walk like you can drop it because you're concentrating on walking or doing something else and your hand just opens. So
I know all about that, right? So
yeah,
I was climbing a scaffold at work
yeah,
in May, and the reason we had the scaffold there was for safety purposes
yeah,
to make sure that we reached the heights of the particular building we were painting
yeah,
without anyone falling off a ladder and getting injured. So
yeah,
I'm climbing up from the ground. I'm climbing up the ladder to get to the first
yeah,
stage of the scaffolding where the platform was. And as I was climbing up, my left hand, it just literally let go. And I hadn't quite put my right hand on the next rung yet. And my left hand let go and I fell
yeah.
backwards and I smashed my back on a horizontal bar, metal bar of the scaffold,
Oh, yeah,
and then fell another meter down to the ground and hit the ground with my back,
yeah,
injured my ribs, bruised my back, and all that kind of stuff. Couldn't sleep properly for about 3 weeks. I
yeah,
was getting massages once a week, um, trying to release it and get it going. And it's just exactly what you just said happened. It,
yeah,
for no reason, just let go because I wasn't paying attention to it or focusing or
yeah,
looking up or thinking about the next
yeah,
getting on the scaffold platform, and it just let go, and
yeah,
it was scary. And the thing about that is, at the gym, it never happened at the gym when I was at the gym. It never
yeah,
let go, but I always had that weakness, the left side weakness. So if I was doing free weights, I went to the gym for about 18 months, and the first 6 months
yeah,
I completely avoided free weights. I just used the machines.
yes, yeah,
And then my chiropractor said, maybe you should use free weights, decrease the weight so that
yeah,
you can reactivate the arm and the
yeah,
bicep and the tricep so that it's doing
yeah,
the exercise without assistance so that you can
yeah,
train it
yeah,
to rehabilitate it. And it's like,
yeah,
but I'm afraid I'll drop it. And he said, well, then just you do lighter weights, and then
Yeah.
that'll be fine. And it was actually fine. But
Yeah.
my left side would, uh, say if the reps, say if the repetitions were 12 or 15,
Yeah.
my right side would get there and it'd be no sweat. It'd be like, yeah, okay, we can, at that weight, we can do more than 12 or
Yeah.
15. But my left side would be going, at 10, it'd be going, man, you've had enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. Stop. And the last two would be burning.
Yeah.
What do you feel like when you do uh, your exercises? What does your right side feel like?
So again, I've from the start have always trained both sides equal, for that exact reason. You don't want a massive arm and a tiny little arm. So I've always trained. Um, it's not the same. Um, Obviously, I get some pull or some twists in my like chest area. Um, it's pretty good now. Like I said, because I've been training for 4 years now, like a lat pull down, I couldn't do at the start. And now I can, looks normal. And a lot of people who saw me training at the gym, apart from my active hand on my like hand, they wouldn't they wouldn't know that I had a stroke. Um, they just because it looks pretty much normal.
Mm.
But again, that's taken a lot of effort, time to get to that point. And again, I train with lower weights for my right side, um, so they're both even. Yeah,
And for you, previously, going to the gym previously, I know it's for fitness and to keep in shape and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But was it also about like pushing yourself to see how hard you can go? And now is it more just about the training part of it, literally just keeping yourself fit and healthy? Like, has it shifted the purpose, the reason you go to the gym? Because you've gone for a long time.
Yeah. I think the purpose hasn't changed because I love the gym. I'm not I love the community, but it's about doing something for yourself that you love. Um, I can jump on the bike or I can jump on the indoor rower or whatever. Um, I don't know. It's just I find peace in the gym. Being by myself. I don't really train with anyone. Apart like I've got like a personal trainer that I train with. But apart from that, at the gym, it's just me. And again, it's that alone time to you know be with your thoughts. But um, for me, it's just that not I wouldn't say relaxing because it's not relaxing, but you de-stress, you get rid of that anxiety, that you know um, those troubling thoughts that you might have or whatever it is. But you just to put that to the side, and all you're thinking about is the training that you're doing. So me to have that focus. Yes, my goal has changed, but the reason I go to the gym hasn't. No, not at
So,
all. Yeah.
so it sounds like you get mental clarity or
Yeah.
some kind of mental support there.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
by that, I mean like you get out of your head because you have to be in your
Yeah.
body.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me, Adam, what's the hardest thing about stroke for you, though?
Probably not being who I was before. Um, but then I suppose that's a good thing. Again, like I said, I've always been a positive person. So like my stroke happened on my right side, it was affected, but I'm a left-handed. So I always try and find the positives in the negative. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. What what has stroke taught you?
That you're stronger than you think you are. Um, that you know there's other people out there that have it worse than you. Um, I suppose that's like for me, like I said, you're stronger than you think you are, and you will get through this. I think the hardest thing for me at the hospital was because a lot of older people have strokes. Um, well, it affects every age. But in the rehab ward, there's a lot of older people, going through the same rehab I was going through, and for them, it's nearly impossible. And that's for me, it was heartbreaking to see because, you know, again, they're really lovely people. You talk to them on a daily basis, and you know, they're struggling a lot harder than you are. Um, but again, it comes back to that. Everyone's going through a different journey. And the only thing that you can help is by supporting them, whether that's through just talking to them. I was sitting there listening to what they say, and just being there for people like that. Because I hate, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I hate that. You've got it. Let's go. Let's go. Like I hate the support or cheer squad sort of attitude. Um, but again, it has its purpose, especially in like the competitive environment. But again, I'm just sort of focused on what I'm doing to you sort of just drown that out. But it's good to have that family support, backing you up all the time. Yeah, it's good.
Mm. The cheer squad type of stuff. Like, what bugs you about that?
Uh,
Why is that an issue?
I think it's just when like when it's just me and say my wife or something. She's my absolute number one supporter. Uh, but I actually don't know what it is. I'd have to ask her what she thinks about it. But I don't know, because I think I've done it for so long on my own. I had basically on my own cheer squad. So
Maybe you don't like being given praise or something.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I as you could probably tell, like I don't need that praise. I'd rather like inspire someone else with my journey. It's not about me. It's about inspiring my kids to do better, or other people that don't think that they can achieve these things. You might not achieve, like I might not achieve the Paralympics, but I'm going to give it a red hot go.
Mm.
And it's about the journey. It's about just seeing where you can go and pushing yourself to where to further than you think you can go. Yeah.
Mm. Fair enough. There's a ton of people listening that are stroke survivors. Maybe
Yeah.
considered going to the gym. Maybe they have been afraid of going to the gym. Who knows what? But what do you want to say to people who are listening who are not quite where you're at with um, the whole exercise,
Yeah.
fitness, the importance of that? Like, what do you want to just let people know?
Well, I started walking my girls to school. That's where I started this journey after I left hospital was, because we lived, okay, like a 1 kilometer from school. So walking to the school every day, picking them up every day. That's how I started this. And just like you said at the start, like just getting out and about, getting the fresh air, the sunlight, the rain, whatever it is. Again, it's a story and it's a journey. Um, that's where I started, and then I just increased my strength, my stamina, what I could do. It wasn't easy. Like I said at the start, I couldn't do a lap, like a lot of the exercises at the gym because my right side was so weak, and I had to build my shoulder back up because it wasted away while I was in hospital. Um, it's taken me a long time to get back to this, where I am now. And that sounds like a long time, but you just take it one step at a time. Like I said, I started off walking, and then I started trying to run, and then running. you know, going back to the gym, which I didn't really want to do, but if you're going to the good gym, they should have that community there. And again, like I know at home, there's a lot of adaptive athletes out there, or adaptive gyms where they're super supportive and they know how to help, stroke survivors. If you've got a deficit, they know how to help that. I know there's a lot of CrossFit gyms that do the same, just to give you that community of, like, people that are like you. It may not be stroke survivors. There might be,
Mm.
paraplegics or quadriplegics, but whatever it is, there's these communities out there, and you just got to find one that suits you, um, and welcomes you, and where you're happy to train, where you're happy to, just not push yourself, but just to get out there and get out of your own little bubble, and converse with people, to have that community to, you know, yeah, sort of bring you out of your shell, and to know that, you know you're not this broken person. You're actually, a beautiful person that, um, has to live. Like, that's what it's out. Your life is there for living, not for hiding away in some dark corner of, and whatever that is for you. Not, obviously not everyone wants to be an elite athlete. It might be to do a 5K run with their kids or
Mm.
whatever it is, but you've just got to have that goal and
Yeah.
then follow it. Yeah.
Start
And
small.
it doesn't, yeah, well, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get to that goal as well. Like, it might be walk 500 meters and then next time walk a K or whatever it is, lift a 10-kilo dumbbell, whatever it is, you have those goals and work up to it. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there.
Yeah.
You're gonna, yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I like that start small, walking the kids around,
Yeah,
taking them to school. That's it. More
yeah,
than enough. Perfect. And then from there, it seems like from there, you know, your level of difficulty increased just because your fitness increased, just because your
yeah,
ability increased. And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's the way forward, is like just increasing the level of difficulty, really small incremental steps so that
Yeah, exactly.
you can get there easily and not injure yourself and not fail.
Yeah,
Um, and have just, maybe you'll have some minor setbacks, but no massive blowouts or no massive failures.
exactly. Yeah,
Mate, I really appreciate you reaching out and connecting, and I'm glad that we met through Effie. She's an amazing person,
yeah, she
um,
is.
and I love the attitude that uh, that that she applies to rehabilitation and stroke
Yeah,
recovery. I think uh, thinking a little next level is great. I'm going to have links to her uh,
yep,
organization in the show notes, just in case somebody wants to go there and check it out.
yeah,
She's in Australia, so most of the listeners and people watching are not going to be able to benefit from Effie, but um, the organization that she helped co-found is really amazing.
hmm.
Um, I wish you well, man. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for sharing your story. Congratulations on your journey so far, and
Thank you.
best of luck with all of your sports
Yeah,
events. And yeah, man, hopefully you get some medals.
cool. Thank you very much.
That brings us to the end of this incredible episode with Adam Jackson. His journey from surviving two strokes, one while serving in Afghanistan and the other 10 years later, to becoming an adaptive sports competitor, is a powerful reminder that recovery is a continuous process and it's never too late to push your limits. Before we wrap up, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to my Patreon supporters. Your contributions help keep this podcast running, ensuring that stroke survivors worldwide have access to these resources. If you'd like to support the podcast and help make it accessible to others, you can find out more at patreon.com/recovery after stroke. And remember, even if you're not in a position to contribute financially, Simply listening to the ads without skipping them is a great way to help. Every little bit makes a difference and keeps this podcast going strong. Your engagement on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes is also hugely appreciated. If today's episode inspired you, please consider leaving a 5-star rating on Spotify or iTunes, or giving it a like and a comment on YouTube. Your support helps others find this podcast and join the growing community. Make sure to keep up with Adam's progress journey and follow his progress in adaptive sports. And remember to explore the resources available at recoveryafterstroke.com for more insights and support. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.